So Game Pass is a double-edged sword. Oh, man. R.I.P. Moment of silence. What am I talking about? Let's get into the video. Let's talk about it. Yo, what is going on, guys? Is that guy Ken back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how Game Pass and subscription services in general are a double-edged sword. Now, why is it that I'm talking about this today? So we recently just got some information about this studio by the name of Works, right? Which they are the people who are responsible for this game called Origami, if you've heard of it. Origami and Origami 2 were two of these games were both in Game Pass, and Origami 2 specifically launched day and date into the service, right? Now, what is significant about these games? So we just learned, and it was confirmed today, that Works is now shutting down. Ooh. Now, that's very interesting because we see a lot of people talk about how Game Pass is great for a lot of these games, a lot of these smaller games and stuff like that, right? But I have a different theory as to why this might be happening, because this is not the first time that this has happened, because we actually have other examples of this happening. You know, games like Ninja Theory's Bleeding Edge, games like Gears Pop, games like Crossfire X, which just happened, and now we can add Origami Studio Works to the bone pile as well, right? Now, I don't want to specifically focus on all of the negative aspects of the service or subscription gaming in general. Simply what I want to do is just point out what I believe is a unfortunate truth about subscription gaming, and specifically Game Pass and their model specifically, right? And the reason why I am saying this is because, in the first place, about them being a double-edged sword and all of that, right, is because there are two sides of the coin, right? On one end, right, I believe, and I actually made a video about this not too long ago, or anyway, I made a video about it. I'll post it in the description or something like that, right? But on one end, you have this model, right, which is really good for people who are smaller developers, indie developers, stuff like that, people who are coming up, people who didn't have like a lot of money to invest into their games and stuff like that. And I also think it's great because it allows some of these people, right, to create games that are usually not mainstream and more creative titles that you don't normally see publishers funding because of the model that Game Pass has. But on the flip side, right, you have situations like this with Origami and some of these other studios and these games shutting down or getting closed down or whatever the case is. In my opinion, I think it has to do with a couple of different things, right? I believe that there's a fundamental issue with Game Pass, and I think it fundamentally stems back to the fact that Game Pass is offering day and date games. Now, why would I say this? So, I believe that Game Pass has a propensity to cannibalize the games that are in its service, right? We know, and we've just gotten information recently, that Game Pass is already cannibalizing sales and stuff like that, right? But I think it goes even further, right, into actually cannibalizing the games that are actually in the service. Because the thing is that when you have so many games, right, that go into the service day and date, there's only but so much time people have to allot towards all of these different titles and stuff like that, right? So inevitably, it's going to happen no matter what. People's attention their attention is going to gravitate towards certain games over others. Now, that could be attributed to the game's quality, or it could actually just be attributed to the fact that you have such a large amount of games that are dropping into the service day and date that the game could actually be good, like something like Origami, which actually wasn't a bad game, right? Just not get the attention and the time of day because there are other games that are cannibalizing the attention for those games, right? But you hear a lot of people say things like, oh, they just need to make a better game, which I agree, right? I think that's very true. And you hear a lot of people also say, right, that the fact that it's because it's not a good game is the reason why it's not getting attention. And I think that's partly true, right? I do agree. I think games need to be better, and I think the better the game is, the more people are going to attract their attention towards the game. But we've seen situations where, like this game, right? It's a smaller game. It fits the whole bill, all of the bills, right? For it to be successful in Game Pass, right? It's creative, it's small, it's up and coming, and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's actually a pretty well built game, but it just didn't get the attention because there are other games surrounding it that is attracting and siphoning people's attention, and so on and so forth, right? Now I think this is very unique to Game Pass specifically, because when you look at PlayStation Plus, right, for example, we just got information not too long ago, right? As a matter of fact, about a month ago, about this game Deep Rock Galactic, right? Which is a game that's also in Game Pass, but it just had its launch on the monthly PlayStation Plus subscription for January. And we're also learning that this game had garnered more than 10 million people. Ever since it launched on the PlayStation Plus platform, it's garnered more than 10 million new players. And they've even gone as far as to say that PlayStation Plus was essential or instrumental to the game's mainstream success, right? Now, I think there's a reason for this, because the difference between Game Pass and something like PlayStation Plus, right, is PlayStation Plus is not, at least not to the same degree, cannibalizing the games that are going into the service, because there's a stronger focus on the games that are going into the service, due to the fact that that it's not focusing specifically on day and date titles all of the time. So essentially, the service is a supplemental service to the experience that you have with your PlayStation console or whatever, right? So you have games like this, right? And on top of that, it's a live service game, which I'm going to get into that in a minute here. But you have games like that when it does drop into the service, the day and date games that you do get, being that it's not a massive volume of these games coming in, there's a lot of attention that goes to that specific game, right? Now, I think there's another nuance to it, because I believe that it also depends on what type of game it is, right? Because we actually did have some information, I think it was last year, right, with Oddworld Soulstorm that had launched on the service. I believe it was last year, or I forgot when it was, but we got information not too long ago saying that the game didn't sell well at all, right? It didn't sell well, which I also made another video about this, talking about how just subscription services in general, that day and date model inevitably is going to cannibalize the actual physical sales for the game, right? But the interesting part is that the game got a lot of engagement, right? 4 million people. It was the highest downloaded game for that month when it launched at the time, but it didn't have physical sales, right? So, like I said, these services, it's like I said, a double-edged sword, right? Because on one side, right, and with Game Pass specifically, you have these opportunities to give people more creative freedom and stuff like that because of the model. But like I said, because of the fact that it does a lot of day and date, and just the simple fact that it's a service, will, one, automatically cannibalize the physical sales for the game, and two, it'll also cannibalize the attention for people who are, who are partaking of a lot of these day and date games and stuff like that, right? And it's similar on the PlayStation side when it comes to PlayStation Plus. It's just not as severe because they're not focusing on day and date like Game Pass is, right? But aside from all of that, right, what I'm gonna say also is that I do believe that there is some utility for the service, right? For both of them. because I believe, like I said before, it depends on what type of game it is. Now, Deep Rock Galactic is a live service game, meaning that the game does not thrive on the sales, right? It thrives on its engagement. Now, it's obvious we're starting to see like some of these single player games not do very well, because like I said, if it's not like a really good game, and if it just kind of got the bad side of the coin kind of thing, where the attention was siphoned from it to a different title, it's just not going to survive, right? But then you have the live service games where, like I said, it doesn't matter as much for the sales, whereas in engagement is key. So it's not all bad. I just think that I think the services, like I said, are double-edged sword. I think specifically with Game Pass, I think that model specifically is especially a double-edged sword because of the way that they have their model set up and stuff like that. But it's not all bad. But like I said, I believe that it's just an uncomfortable and unfortunate truth that you have to kind of deal with when it comes to having a service like Game Pass and the specific model that they have set up for it. But either way, that's all I had to say about this topic today. If you like the video, guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section, hit that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.